There is a voice few ever hear, yet everyone longs for its answer. It is not an external echo or an empty promise. It is the inner voice of money, whispering from deep within your subconscious mind, waiting to be recognized, invoked, and activated. Based on the transformative teachings of Joseph Murphy, this text is more than a spiritual financial guide. It is a call to awaken your creative verbal power, to understand that money is not your enemy or a mystery. It is intelligent energy that responds to your words, your emotions, and your conviction. Here you'll discover how to speak to money, not with desperation, but with authority, not from lack, but from awareness. And when you learn the right tone, vibration, and faith, you will witness how money, silent yet obedient, never stops flowing to you. Get ready to tune in to the language of financial creation. Because when you speak with clarity, money always listens. You are not alone when you think about money. You are not speaking into the void when you imagine a full bank account, a thriving business, or a debt paid off. You are not merely fantasizing when you desire financial independence, material security, or the freedom to give. You are engaging in a dialogue, even if you don't realize it, with an intelligent frequency that awaits your recognition. This book is born from an unshakable certainty. Money has a voice. Not a human, mystical, or verbal voice, but an inner resonance that responds, guides, corrects, and suggests paths when your conscious mind quiets down and your subconscious aligns. For years I have taught that the subconscious mind is the great workshop of life. There, ideas are processed, affirmations are accepted, and the shapes of tomorrow are incubated. But few understand that this deep mind is not passive. It is sensitive, reactive, and when consulted with precision, it speaks. Not in words, but in impulses, images, gut feelings, dreams, sudden certainties. This book will teach you how to provoke that conversation, not in a mystical or theoretical way, but in a practical, organized, and replicable manner. You will learn how to ask, how to listen, and how to obey. You will learn to turn every payment into a prayer, every expense into an affirmation, every income into a symbol of your evolution. Traditional economics taught you to chase. This work will teach you to attune. You will not compete, you will collaborate. You will not worry, you will train. You will change your relationship with money at its root, not to accumulate it mindlessly, but to turn it into an instrument of vision, expansion, and service. The principle of wealth neither punishes nor rewards. It responds. It doesn't choose a few. It answers whoever approaches it with faith and discipline. Your learning begins today, and if you apply it, you will discover that you will never again feel limited, because your eternal partner, money, will always respond when you call upon it with respect and clarity. The inner voice of money, a dialogue with financial energy, inspired by the teachings of Dr. Joseph Murphy. We've noticed that over 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by clicking the subscribe button and giving the video a like. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1, The Living Nature of Money. Money is not metal nor paper. Money is a divine idea in circulation, a tangible expression of an invisible substance. Consciousness. Most people think of money as something inert, a thing to obtain, retain, or accumulate. But that view ignores its true origin. Money is a form of mental energy, clothed in material symbols, designed to serve as an instrument of exchange, recognition, and the circulation of good. Consider for a moment the simple fact that paper money has no intrinsic value. A $100 bill cannot feed or shelter you unless you first assign it power, value, and capacity. Where does that power come from? It comes from the mind that accepts the symbol as a legitimate means of acquisition. Thus, money is a symbol with a life of its own, a collectively sustained image that operates under mental and spiritual laws. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he, says Proverbs 23:7. If you think of money as something foreign, dirty, or unreachable, it will be just that for you. But if you see it as an expression of divine good, it will come to you with ease and grace. I once received a businessman who firmly told me, "I hate money. It's the root of all evil. But I need more to pay my bills." I calmly replied, "You don't need more money. You need a new idea about money. I asked him to repeat this affirmation every morning and night for 3 weeks. Money is a divine idea in circulation. It loves me, I bless it, and together we serve the good of all. 3 weeks later, he called me, his voice full of joy. His income had tripled, his employees seemed more motivated, and clients sought him out without extra effort. What changed? Not the external economy, but the internal perception. The old idea that money was evil was replaced by the truth. Money is a servant of divine wisdom. Like everything else, money is organized energy. Physicists will tell you that banknotes are made of atoms, and atoms are vibrations, frequencies, fields of energy. I will tell you that those frequencies respond to human thought, and even more to sustained feeling. In other words, money responds to your deep mental image of it, not to the shallow desire to have it. If inwardly you despise it, you repel it. If you bless it, you attract it. Psalm 1 tells us, "He shall be like a tree planted by rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper." That tree is your mind, the rivers are your fruitful thoughts. If you plant the right idea, that money is a stream of good, an expression of infinite provision, your life will blossom. Not because someone hands you money, but because your inner state aligns with the law of circulation. A woman once wrote to me from California, "Dr. Murphy, I was raised to believe money is dirty, that the rich will never enter the kingdom of heaven. But now I'm bankrupt, sick, and alone. How can I heal this mindset?" I asked her to pray each night with these words. God is the source of all good. His wealth flows to me like an eternal river. Money is my friend, and I use it with love and wisdom. 60 days later, she wrote back. She had received an unexpected job offer, paid off part of her debts, and her health had improved. When we transform the mental root, the fruits change. Remember this, money is not your enemy. Money has no morality. It's like fire. It can warm your home or burn it down. It can build hospitals or fund wars. Everything depends on the intention of the user. When you see money as an ally, it becomes a silent partner in your mission. When you see it as a threat, it becomes elusive and painful. Have you ever noticed how some children play with fake money as if it were real? The subconscious doesn't distinguish between the symbolic and the real. If you can visualize your wallet full, your bank account growing, your purse overflowing, your subconscious will accept it as truth, and by accepting it, it will reproduce it. This is a mental law. What you accept internally will manifest externally. Are you afraid of not having money? That emotion becomes a command your subconscious obeys. Do you believe money is hard to earn? That belief will become your experience. Do you think that if you gain money, someone else loses? Then you are sowing scarcity and will reap limitation. Instead, affirm this. Wealth is an inexhaustible good. It flows to all without taking from anyone. This is more than optimism. It is harmony with the law of abundance. You don't need to manipulate the market or predict the future economy. You need to purify your idea of money. See it as an agent of good, a vibration of service, a neutral tool that takes the shape of your intention. Money is a messenger. It brings news of your consciousness. If it arrives in scarcity, examine your thoughts. If it flows generously, it confirms your alignment with good. Don't blame the government, inflation, or your boss. Ask yourself, what inner image am I projecting? Then correct that image and the world will follow. You might be saying, but I pray every day for money and it doesn't come. I ask, do you pray with gratitude or with anxiety? Do you ask like someone who believes in the answer, or like someone who doubts himself? And whatever you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive. Matthew 21:22. The key is in the verb believing, not wishing, not hoping, believing. There is no need to force anything. You only need to plant the right idea. That money is a manifestation of harmony that comes to serve, not to enslave. That it flows, not stagnates. That it loves you, not avoids you. That you deserve it, because you were created to live in fullness, not lack. When rightly understood, money becomes a witness to divine goodness. It is not an end, but a bridge. Not a trap, but a path. Not a god, but a servant. Learn to treat it as such, and it will follow you. Flee from it, and it will flee with you. Chase it in fear, and it will hide. Love it with wisdom, and it will become your ally. Start today. Write on a piece of paper. Money is my friend. It is a living idea of God. I bless it and use it with joy. Place that note beside your bed. Read it every morning and every night. Watch as that idea, planted in your subconscious, begins to bear fruit in the visible world, because everything you do shall prosper. So says the Psalm, and your own experience will confirm it, when your mind aligns with eternal truth. Chapter 2. The Subconscious Universal Bank. The subconscious is the great bank of the universe. It is not located in any specific part of your body, yet it operates in every cell. It is not an anatomical structure, but a spiritual function, a deep intelligence that responds with mathematical precision to the mental images sustained by your consciousness. What you record in the subconscious through repeated thoughts, intense emotions, or words charged with conviction transforms into form, circumstance, and experience. Just as a bank receives and guards the deposits you make, in the same way, your subconscious receives all the ideas you give it, whether consciously or unconsciously. What you deposit with enough emotional charge becomes your visible reality. This is why Jesus said, "By their fruits you will know them." Matthew 7:20. The fruits of your life always reflect the mental seeds you have planted within. There are no limits to what your subconscious can manifest. It doesn't distinguish between big and small. It doesn't judge whether a request is reasonable or extravagant. It does not reason, it obeys. It doesn't compare, it executes. It is like fertile soil that rejects no seed. It will grow thistles if that's what you plant, or wheat if you sow truth, harmony, and abundance. The law is neutral, but its operation is precise. Your subconscious mind is like an invisible workshop where your external conditions are crafted. Picture an architect drawing up the plans of a house. The house doesn't appear by magic. It takes shape because a builder follows the plans. Your conscious mind is the architect, and your subconscious is the tireless builder that constructs without questioning. If you give it plans of poverty, it will build scarcity. If you hand it images of abundance, it will construct prosperity. For many years, I have taught that the subconscious is the living archive of consciousness. Everything you believe with emotion is recorded and becomes a pattern of behavior, health, income, and relationships. A woman once wrote to me saying, "My life changed when I began to repeat this phrase every night. Money loves me, and I serve it with joy." She didn't say it like an empty affirmation. She felt it. She visualized bills dancing around her. She felt a warm energy flowing toward her. After 6 weeks, she received a job offer that doubled her income. What happened? She reprogrammed her inner bank. The French pharmacist Émile Coué demonstrated that autosuggestion is more powerful than any external medicine. His famous experiment asked patients to repeat with conviction, "Every day in every way I'm getting better and better." Many were healed without drugs, just by the power of a sustained mental image. Why? Because the subconscious doesn't need arguments. It needs conviction. The same is true with money. If you constantly repeat, "I don't have enough, it's never enough, everything is too expensive," those phrases are recorded as commands. But if you repeat with emotion, "I am connected to the universal bank of abundance," your subconscious will accept that truth and set in motion invisible means for its manifestation. A young woman from New York told me that, after reading one of my books, she began speaking to her subconscious as if placing an order in a secure vault. "Dear Inner Bank, thank you for providing all the resources I need to fulfill my mission." She didn't specify figures or dates. She simply gave thanks with certainty. 3 months later, she was invited to join an international project with an income 10 times greater than before. When she wrote to me, she didn't talk so much about the money, but about her inner transformation. "I'm no longer a slave to financial fear," she said. "I know my deposit is always full." The subconscious is also like a camera. It faithfully records the images you hold. It doesn't distinguish between reality and fantasy, only between what you feel is true and what you reject as improbable. That's why it is vital not to plant doubt, sarcasm, or fear. Every thought of lack is like a bounced check. It holds no value, and worse, it creates emotional debt. But every thought of abundance is like a growing deposit, accumulating invisible interest. The most common mistake people make is wanting external results without changing their internal deposits. They want money, but quietly repeat, "That's impossible. No one pays me what I'm worth. The world is a mess." With those phrases, they're signing decrees of poverty. Instead, you must learn to speak to your subconscious like a loyal partner, with respect, with trust, and with clarity. Repeat, my subconscious responds generously to every positive image I plant. That is the truth. You might say, Dr. Murphy, I've been repeating affirmations, but I don't see results. I'll ask you, do you repeat them with faith or with fear? Do you feel their truth or is there hidden doubt? The subconscious only acts when emotion and idea are united. That's why I say, feel the truth of your affirmation and it will bloom. Now I invite you to try a practical exercise. For 7 nights before falling asleep, place one hand over your heart and say, my subconscious, you are the universal bank. I deposit in you this image, a prosperous, abundant, generous life. Thank you for multiplying it. Then visualize a bank account with growing numbers. Don't say when or how, just see and feel it. This is scientific prayer. Once the subconscious accepts the image, it begins organizing events, people, and situations to bring it to light. You don't know how it will happen, that's not your concern. Your part is to plant the seed. Its part is to bear the fruit. So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty. Isaiah 55:11. That word is your mental image charged with certainty. When money comes to you as the result of an inner image of fullness, it doesn't come with guilt, fear, or exhausting effort. It comes as the natural fruit of an invisible seed. It comes because you have activated the invisible bank that never closes, never crashes, and never denies a sincere request. Remember, the subconscious not only stores, it multiplies. What you plant once, it repeats 1,000 times. So make your thoughts images of prosperity. Make your prayer a declaration of fullness. Make your life a symphony of gratitude. Because the universal bank within you has no limits. It is inexhaustible, it is eternal, it is yours, and it is ready to give you more than you have ever asked or imagined. Chapter 3. Tuning into the inner voice. Within you dwells a source of wisdom that never sleeps. It never errs, never grows impatient, never ceases. This inner voice does not shout or demand, it whispers. It does not argue or boast. It gently points the way, but it can only be heard when the surface mind falls silent. In that fertile silence, the soul becomes receptive and guidance arrives with clarity. This is what we call conversational meditation, an art forgotten by many, rediscovered by those who long to live in harmony with infinite intelligence. This art belongs to no religion, nor is it an esoteric privilege reserved for the initiated. It is available to anyone who, with humility and determination, dares to ask, to be still, and to receive. The method is so simple that it is often overlooked. 3 steps, 3 keys, 3 acts of inner faith. Ask, silence, inspired answer. Let us begin with the first step, the question. Not just any question will do. It must be sincere, specific, and directed toward the higher intelligence residing in your subconscious. It is not a demand or complaint. It is a reverent inquiry, like the one young Samuel made in the scriptures. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. 1 Samuel 3:10. That is the attitude, not to impose but to invoke, not to demand but to receive. A woman once told me, I've prayed, I've affirmed, but I still don't know what to do with my business. I have no clarity. I suggested something different. Ask your inner self as if you were speaking to an invisible sage, and then remain silent. The next day she called me. I dreamt that I was rearranging my entire shop, and when I woke up I felt I had to do it. I did, and my sales tripled within 2 weeks. She didn't force the answer, she received it. The second step is silence. This is where the power of the technique lies. We live drowned in mental noise, lists, problems, memories, anxieties. That mental chatter drowns out the inner voice. That's why I teach an ancient breathing practice I call the 3-3-3 rhythm. Inhale for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, exhale for 3 seconds, repeat 9 times. This is not about hyperventilating or inducing a trance. It's about calming the nervous system, quieting the mental waves so the deeper voice can rise. This simple rhythm re-educates the mind to silence its chatter. After a few minutes, you'll begin to feel a new space, not empty but filled with quiet expectancy. That is where the real dialogue begins. Not with noisy words, but with impressions, images, peaceful impulses. Silence is not absence. It is the cradle of the answer. And then comes the third step, the inspired answer. It is not always a sentence. Sometimes it's a feeling, a certainty, an idea that surfaces with both strength and sweetness. A woman once told me, After applying this method, I suddenly felt a clear impulse to call an old client. I did, and we closed a contract that covers my whole year. She didn't overthink or analyze. She listened and obeyed. The common mistake is expecting an intellectual response, but the subconscious doesn't speak in words or logic. It speaks in symbols, emotions, intuition. You might feel an urge to write. Do it. Sometimes the answer flows as if dictated. Other times it comes as images or as a solid piece that assures you this is the way. A young unemployed man came to me in despair. I taught him this method and said, "Tonight, ask, where should I look?" Then breathe 333 and listen without expecting anything in particular. The next day he told me he dreamt of an old classmate and a specific address. He went. It was a design company looking for someone exactly like him. They hired him within the hour. Coincidence? No, it's the law in action. Ask. Silence. Response. Many confuse the inner voice with imagination, but there's a key difference. The ego pushes, the inner voice guides, the ego demands, the inner voice suggests, the ego fears, the inner voice calms. And if you doubt, ask for confirmation. The inner voice is never offended by repetition. It grows stronger each time it's recognized. Let me propose a complete exercise. Tonight, before sleeping, write down a question in the present tense. What is the right step to multiply my income? Then sit down, breathe in 333 and say softly, "Speak, divine wisdom, for I am listening." Don't think, just remain receptive. If images come, welcome them. If an emotion arises, observe it, and if nothing comes, sleep peacefully. The seed has been planted. Upon waking, take your notebook and write the first thing that comes to your mind, without judgment. Repeat this for a week. You will begin to notice a pattern, a coherence, a guidance, a presence. That is the inner voice, an invisible compass that never fails. The mistake is to think it doesn't work just because the result isn't immediate. But a seed planted in faith always germinates. This dialogue with your inner self does not replace outward action. It complements it. Once you receive the answer, act with confidence. The subconscious rewards aligned action. Knowing is not enough, you must apply. Faith without works is barren, and that's why I teach. The most powerful prayer is the one that translates into movement. You receive an image, you take a step. You feel an idea, you make the call. You sense a direction, you start walking. When this becomes a habit, you will live in constant communion with a source that never fails. You will no longer depend on external opinions or market fluctuations. Your guidance will be within. And as Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:21. That kingdom responds when you ask from the heart. You don't need to join an order or take special vows. You only need to quiet yourself, ask with faith and listen with humility. Infinite intelligence will respond, for the human soul was designed as a spiritual receiving antenna. Make this a daily appointment. Don't seek fast answers. Seek constant communion. Don't beg, consult, don't demand things. Ask for guidance. And when you receive, give thanks. For the inner voice not only answers, it loves, it sustains, it leads. Now you know the secret is not in talking much, but in asking clearly, silencing with intention, and acting with trust. That is the method, that is the science, that is the law. Chapter 4. Detect and dismantle hostile beliefs. Every external failure is the visible expression of an internal image. Nothing happens by chance in your financial world. Your income, your debts, your achievements, and your frustrations all stem from a common root: your beliefs. Many of these beliefs, even if you don't consciously remember them, are active in your subconscious, acting as invisible guides of your financial destiny. Detecting and replacing them is not a minor choice. It is the first step in any true transformation process. A hostile belief is not a curse or a divine punishment. It is simply a mistaken idea held with emotional intensity. For example, money doesn't grow on trees. You have to fight hard to earn it. There's never enough. Rich people are selfish. I'm not good with money. Each of these phrases acts like a command that the subconscious carries out without protest. Not because it's foolish, but because it was designed to obey what you most deeply believe. St. Paul expressed it with luminous clarity in his letter to the Romans. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Romans 12:2. This renewal is not a poetic metaphor. It is a precise procedure. It involves identifying the old pattern, deactivating it, and planting a new one. A young man came to see me after losing his third business. He said, "I do everything right, but something always goes wrong. I don't know what to believe anymore." I asked him to write down all the phrases he had heard as a child related to money. Among them appeared, "Rich people steal. If you earn a lot, someone will take it from you. Luck doesn't last. Don't think too highly of yourself." I showed him that these messages had been accepted by his subconscious as rules. He then understood that it wasn't a flaw in his plans, but an inner programming incompatible with success. That's where his renewal began. We applied a protocol inspired by the research of psychologist James Pennebaker on therapeutic writing, but focused on the financial sphere. It consists of writing for 20 minutes a day over 3 consecutive days, a sincere story about your relationship with money. Begin with your earliest memory, a scene with your parents, a phrase that marked you, a painful incident. You don't need to share it with anyone. It's a private act of revelation. Once the story is written, proceed to dismantle it. Take each limiting phrase and write it on a separate sheet. For example, "Money corrupts." Ask yourself, is this a universal truth or a personal experience? Does it always corrupt, or does it depend on who uses it? Then write a new affirmation containing truth, freedom, and possibility. In this case, money amplifies who I am. If I am generous, it multiplies my generosity. If I am wise, it enhances my service. Repeat this affirmation for 21 days, along with a brief visualization of yourself handling money with love and skill. This is the process of replacement. One woman applied this method during a weekend retreat. She had lived under the shadow of a belief imposed by her grandmother. "You'll never know how to manage money. You're an artist." Every time she received money, she lost it. When writing her story, she cried. When she wrote her new affirmation, "I am creative and prosperous. My art is a channel of stable wealth," she felt unexpected peace. 3 months later, she was selling her paintings at prices that had once seemed impossible. Hostile beliefs disguise themselves as prudence, dress in humility, common sense, or economic realism. But when you examine them, you'll find they are rooted in fear, resentment, or guilt. There is no virtue in holding on to ideas that harm you. A mistaken idea can seem noble. "I don't need money, only peace." But if you observe your life and find anxiety, scarcity, or dependence, that idea is not serving you. Changing it is not a betrayal of your values. It is an act of loyalty to your well-being. A belief is not eliminated by debating it. It is replaced by a more powerful one. The subconscious does not operate through argument, but through imprinting. That's why I teach. Sow the new idea like a seed. Repeat it until it becomes flesh of your flesh, certainty within. Then, without conscious effort, your decisions will change, your opportunities will multiply, and your relationship with money will become fluid. Some people say to me, "Dr. Murphy, this sounds logical, but how do I know what beliefs I have?" The answer is simple. Look at your results. They will tell you everything. If money comes and goes, if you're afraid to ask for what you're worth, if you avoid talking about finances or feel guilty for charging well, there lies a hostile belief. Don't judge it. Don't curse it. Thank it for trying to protect you and release it with love. Make renewal a habit. Every month, dedicate a day to reviewing your ideas about money. Ask yourself, does this bring me closer to fullness or chain me to the past? If you discover a repeated phrase, replace it with a new one and write it in large letters. Put it on your mirror, read it aloud, and most importantly, feel it as true. A powerful affirmation to begin with is, "Everything I believe within me expresses outside of me. I now choose to plant ideas of abundance, worthiness, and multiplied service." It is not a magic formula. It is a spiritual command to the universal bank of the subconscious. Lack is not a punishment or karma. It is the natural consequence of unexamined limiting beliefs. And prosperity is not the privilege of a few. It is the soul's natural state when its ideas align with truth. Today you can begin your inner cleansing. Write, release, replace. Just as you clean your home and your body, cleanse your financial mind, because only a renewed mind can contain renewed wealth. And as Scripture says, that renewal doesn't just transform you, it allows you to prove the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. Chapter 5. The Language of Abundance Symbols. Your subconscious mind does not think in words or numbers, it thinks in images. Within that world of shapes, colors, movements, and sensations, it responds especially strongly to symbols. A symbol is not an empty fantasy or an artistic exaggeration. It is a precise tool of mental programming. When you learn to speak to the subconscious using prosperity-driven images, it responds with external manifestations that reflect that abundance. It's that simple and that profound. For years, I've observed how people with impeccable technical training and meticulous strategic plans fail to prosper because they carry within them an image of scarcity, a drained account, a locked drawer, a phone that never rings. Meanwhile, others with little formal education but a rich and powerful vision in their minds manage to build empires from a small business. The difference lies in the dominant symbol. The mind does not act based on logic but on vision. It does not execute abstract ideas but vivid representations. Modern neuroimaging studies have confirmed what New Thought has taught for decades. The brain activates the same areas when imagining as when experiencing. That is, if you visualize in detail that you are receiving generous payments, signing prosperous contracts, managing growing funds, your mind reacts as if it's already happening. And since the subconscious cannot distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined, it begins to work to produce that scene in the material world. That is the law. That's why I teach the use of what I call nightly mental movies. Every night before sleeping, dedicate 5 minutes to projecting a movie in your mind where you are the protagonist of a prosperous life. This is not about wishing or waiting or analyzing. It's about seeing. See a check with your name on it. Look at the exact amount. Feel the paper in your hands. Hear the words of the grateful client. Now watch the next scene. You deposit the check, open your account, and see the numbers rise. Feel the calm joy of knowing you are provided for. Do this each night. That image will enter your subconscious as a command. A man once told me he visualized every night a river of gold flowing into his office. In the image, he opened the doors every morning and saw the gold gently pouring onto his desk, filling every corner. It wasn't greed or fantasy. It was a symbolic image of constant flow. Within 6 months, that man had doubled his revenue without any drastic change in strategy. What changed? His inner symbol. Gold was no longer rare or distant. It became near, fluid, generous. Symbols work because they speak directly to the deeper part of the mind, the part that organizes external events. That's why they are more powerful than words alone. You may say, "I want prosperity," but if your internal symbol is an overdrawn account or an empty table, your subconscious will respond to that symbol, not your words. That's why I insist, replace the image. Let me suggest a few concrete symbols you can start using today. First symbol, spring of provision. Each morning upon waking, visualize a spring bubbling at your feet. Its waters are crystal clear, and every drop represents a form of income, a new idea, an opportunity, an unexpected resource. Don't try to control the flow, just watch it rise. This installs in your subconscious the idea of natural and renewable abundance. Second symbol, golden tree. Imagine a tree in the center of your home with golden leaves and shining fruits. Each fruit is a financial blessing, a payment received, a debt cleared, a deal closed. Touch it, pick it, give thanks. This plants in your mind the image that wealth grows naturally around you without excessive effort, as part of divine order. Third symbol, ascending bank account. Mentally open your account and observe how the numbers rise, not by magic, but as the result of your value, your service, and your faith. Look at the balance. Feel it. Mentally repeat, "Each day my account reflects divine provision." This counters the habit of checking accounts with anxiety. It transforms the act into a celebration. A mother used this method to emerge from a long season of lack. Each night after putting her children to bed, she spent 3 minutes imagining a gentle rain of bills falling over her home. Not millions, just enough in ordinary bills to gracefully cover everything. Within a few months, she received a promotion, and her husband gained an unexpected client who connected them to new opportunities. She told me, "I'm not surprised. I had already seen it all many times in my mind." You must understand that the subconscious responds better to repeated symbolism than to logical reasoning. It doesn't matter how many times you explain that you deserve to prosper. If your mind visualizes ruin, that is what you will attract. But if you daily plant images of flow, order, and expansion, the subconscious will adjust your behavior, your intuition, and your decisions until that scene becomes real. Include symbols in your affirmations. Don't just say, "I prosper." Say, "I see my home filled with light and order. I feel my hands full of resources. I open my doors and good flows in like an endless river." That affirmation is more than a phrase. It is a spoken image, and the mind takes it as a directive. An unemployed young man began drawing an upward spiral with his finger in the air every night. As he did, he would say, "Everything in my life rises: my faith, my income, my peace." Within 2 months, he was working at a company that offered not just a salary but a partnership. How did it happen? The symbol became reality, because that is what the subconscious does when you feed it consistently. Always remember, you are not playing with fantasies. You are designing the script of your future reality. Your subconscious is not a spiritual ornament. It is the laboratory where the forms are imprinted that later appear in your account, your home, your environment. Speak its language. Use symbols of abundance, and you will see that what once seemed impossible becomes your new normal. Before sleeping tonight, project your mental movie. Choose your symbols. Make them simple but vivid. Plant those images with gratitude, not because you see them now, but because they are already germinating. The visible world will follow your inner world, because what you see with your eyes closed, if you see it with faith, you will soon see with your eyes wide open. Chapter 6. Ask and receive the art of direct consultation. The entire universe is designed to respond. Every falling leaf, every spinning star, every breathing cell responds to a law. You, as a conscious expression of divine intelligence, are no exception. You were created with the power to consult directly with the source of wealth, wisdom, and provision. This principle responds perfectly, not to those who plead, but to those who ask the right question. Traditional prayer asks, visualization imagines, affirmation declares, but direct consultation questions with precision, in silence, and listens for the answer. This is the key. It's not about asking for the sake of asking, but about learning the art of inquiring with clarity and recording what is received with fidelity. That is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. Many pray without direction. They ask for more money, more opportunities, more help. But the principle of wealth does not respond to the volume of the plea, but to the clarity of the question. A confused question plants confusion. A precise question activates specific channels of revelation. The subconscious is like a divine search engine. You give it the prompt, and it travels through higher planes until it finds the answer that matches your level of faith and openness. I invite you to practice the method I've taught to entrepreneurs, artists, doctors, and homemakers alike. I call it the consultation sheet. It's a simple yet effective process that structures the dialogue with your deeper intelligence. Step 1. Define your need clearly. Don't say, "I want more money." That's vague. Say, "I want to know the most harmonious and elevated way to generate steady income through my vocation." Define what you want, why you want it, and what areas it includes. Step 2. Formulate a question that demands a concrete answer. Examples. What is the next concrete step to multiply my income without sacrificing my well-being? What idea can I develop that allows me to serve with joy and be well paid? What must I stop doing to allow abundance to flow freely? Step 3. Write the question on your consultation sheet using your own handwriting. Do it by hand. Avoid screens or word processors. Handwriting engages the subconscious more deeply. Step 4. Breathe in a 3-3-3 rhythm for 5 cycles. Inhale, hold, and exhale for 3 seconds each. This quiets the conscious mind and opens the intuitive channel. Step 5. Say softly, like a reverent whisper, "Principle of wealth within me. Divine intelligence, respond to this consultation with clarity. I am willing to receive and obey." Step 6. Enter receptive silence. Don't try to think. Don't expect anything specific. Just welcome whatever comes, an image, a word, an emotion, a memory, a brief instruction. Step 7. Immediately write down what you received, even if it makes no sense, even if it seems irrelevant, even if it's not a verbal answer. The signal may be a mental scene, a direction, a name, a color, a feeling of certainty. A woman who designed tools for people with reduced mobility told me, "I didn't know how to solve a technical problem that was blocking my project. I used your method. I asked before sleeping, How can I resolve the opening mechanism with just one hand? I slept peacefully. I dreamed of a metal spiral turning inward. When I woke up, I knew how to redesign it. Today, that device is used in 3 hospitals. That answer wasn't the result of mental effort. It was received because that's how the principle of wealth operates. It doesn't impose, it reveals. It doesn't invent, it remembers. It doesn't suggest, it indicates. But it only speaks when you take on the role of a faithful inquirer, not a beggar, not a passive believer, but a consultant, one who knows there is an inexhaustible source of wisdom and who approaches it with order, respect, and purpose. Not every answer will be spectacular. Sometimes the answer will be wait. Other times, adjust your intention. But every time you ask with honesty and listen with attention, something changes in you. Your frequency rises, your perception sharpens, your inner alignment reorganizes. Make this consultation a habit. Create a dedicated notebook. Call it My Dialogues with Wealth. Each night, write your question. Each morning, note your dreams, intuitions, or feelings. Don't look for logic. Look for coherence between what you received and what you experienced. After a month, you'll notice a pattern. You'll see some ideas repeat, some materialize, others vanish to give way to greater revelations. A young therapist told me that after 6 weeks of applying this method, she noticed that every time she asked before sleep, she received an image of children painting. She ignored it at first, but the image returned again and again. Finally, she understood. I was meant to offer therapeutic art workshops for children. Today, she runs a well-known center. When she wrote to me, she said, "The answer was there from the beginning. I just had to listen." Your subconscious is not asleep, it's alert. It's waiting for you to speak its language. That language is the focused question. It doesn't beg, it doesn't plead, it consults, and the universe, mental in its structure, responds to every clear inquiry with a corresponding echo. Try it tonight. Ask. Be silent. Write. Repeat. The answer will come. Not like lightning, but like a seed. Not as a forced miracle, but as a subtle path. But it will come, because wealth is not a whim, but a response to inner order. And that order begins when you decide to ask with faith and receive with gratitude. Chapter 7, Dialogues of Gratitude. And let recurring income flow. Gratitude is not a courtesy or a moral gesture. It is an active frequency of continuous reception. The one who gives thanks is not merely describing an event. They are activating a law. Gratitude is the signal the subconscious mind recognizes as proof of acceptance. When you give thanks for an income, an opportunity, or a provision, even if it is not yet visible, you are declaring to the universe that you have already received it internally. And what is received inwardly cannot delay in manifesting outwardly. Every time you speak gratitude aloud, you are communicating to the principle of wealth that you are ready to receive more. Not more from lack, but from natural expansion. Gratitude does not beg, it recognizes. It does not insist, it confirms. That is why it is one of the most powerful practices for establishing a constant flow of income. It is not about giving thanks only when things go well, but about entering a state of anticipatory gratitude that magnetizes new sources of provision. The formula I teach is simple and effective. Thank you because I already... This phrase, when repeated with sincerity, acts as a clear message to the universal bank of the subconscious. For example, thank you because the perfect income to joyfully cover all my responsibilities is already flowing to me. Or, thank you because the right people who value and generously pay for my service are already reaching out to me. The key lies in the word already. The subconscious does not respond to vague wishes. It responds to facts accepted as present. Modern science has confirmed this principle, which we've taught for decades. Psychologist Robert Emmons, through his research on gratitude journals, showed that people who daily record 3 things they're grateful for not only improve their emotional well-being, but also enhance their perception of financial sufficiency. What science calls sustained positive bias, we call constant reception vibration. It's not just pleasant emotion, it's the activation of invisible channels. A businessman who applied this practice told me, "I started by being grateful for small things. A client who paid on time, a shared lunch, a new idea. After a month, my income grew. But more importantly, I began to see opportunities where I used to see obstacles. I realized that it wasn't money I lacked, but the willingness to recognize the good. That willingness is the portal. The dialogue of gratitude is a continuous internal conversation. It requires no stage, no ritual, no condition. You can do it while walking, driving, or waiting. You don't have to shout it. It's enough to feel it and whisper it. Thank you because everything is in order. Thank you because I already have everything I need. Thank you because good flows to me and through me. A single mother told me she began to give thanks for the income she didn't yet have. At first it felt absurd, but she persisted. Each night she would say, "Thank you because my children have everything they need. Thank you because my account is full. Thank you because help comes through unexpected channels." A few weeks later, a relative she hadn't seen in years reached out and offered her a collaboration opportunity that transformed her financial situation. She said, "It felt like the universe was waiting for me to say thank you before opening the door." That's exactly what happens. The universe does not respond to complaint. It responds to recognition, and you can train your subconscious to expect more, not from lack, but from certainty. Repeat, "I'm grateful because good surrounds me. Everything I need is already on its way." It doesn't matter if your bank account doesn't reflect it yet. If your heart accepts it, your reality will reflect it. Make gratitude a written practice. Every night before bed, take your financial gratitude journal. Write down 5 things related to money for which you can give thanks. Received income, offers, ideas, people who supported you, discounts, gifts. Then write 3 gratitudes for things not yet visible, but already accepted internally. Thank you because my next contract is already signed in the invisible. Thank you because the expected raise is already a reality in my mind. Thank you because the flow of passive income stabilizes with joy. Don't write as someone who hopes. Write as someone who records. This difference is vital. You are training your subconscious to see the invisible as evident. And when that happens, your behavior changes, your language shifts, your intuition sharpens, and the channels open. Do not be mistaken. This is not empty autosuggestion. It is spiritual law in action. Gratitude does not persuade an external God to give you something. Gratitude persuades your subconscious that you are already at the level where that is normal, natural, and possible. And when that happens, the impossible becomes ordinary. Start now. Write, "Thank you because I already have more than enough to live, give, and enjoy. Thank you because abundance flows and multiplies in my life." Repeat this at least 3 times a day. Do it while walking, cooking, working. You'll see that not only does money flow, but your soul finds rest. Because gratitude not only attracts wealth, it reveals the peace that money alone could never buy. Chapter 8. Intelligent Generosity, Validating the Conversation. Giving is not losing, giving is affirming. Every act of generosity, when it is born from a consciousness of abundance, acts as a silent decree that informs the subconscious. There is more than enough. This declaration is not made in words, but in deeds. You can repeat prosperity affirmations for hours, but if your behavior is marked by fear of sharing, you are denying in the physical realm what you claim in the mental. On the other hand, when you give with intention, you confirm to your deeper mind that you live in a universe of flow, not of scarcity. This principle, if misunderstood, can lead to reckless extremes. Some believe that giving without measure, without discernment or order, will make them more prosperous. No, the subconscious does not reward recklessness. It rewards coherence. Intelligent generosity is not wastefulness, misunderstood sacrifice, or spiritual exhibitionism. It is the precise act of sharing from the inner recognition that one is sustained by an inexhaustible source. In the parable of the talents, Matthew 25:14-30, Jesus describes a man who entrusts his servants with varying amounts of money. 2 of them multiply what they received and are rewarded. The third, out of fear, buries his portion. What happens? Even the little he had is taken from him. The lesson is clear. It is not enough to preserve. Circulation is necessary. He who hides out of fear loses. He who expands with purpose receives more. An entrepreneur once shared his experience with voluntary tithing. For years, he believed he couldn't afford to give away 10% of his income. But after a personal crisis, he decided to donate that 10% to an educational program that had helped him in his youth. He didn't do it out of religious obligation, but as a conscious act of circulation. Within 6 months, not only had he financially recovered, but he had also doubled his client portfolio. What changed? His inner dialogue. He no longer lived from the question, "What if I don't have enough?" but from the affirmation, "I give because I have, and by giving I show that I still have." Giving confirms that is the key. If you say, "I trust in abundance but resist contributing," you are planting a contradictory signal. However, when you set aside a portion of your income to share, your mind receives the command. There is plenty. This doesn't impoverish me, this multiplies. Because your subconscious does not respond to arguments, it responds to symbolic acts. And giving is one of the most powerful. The philanthropist John Templeton, known not only for his financial success, but also for his deep spiritual insight, proposed a simple and practical formula that captures this principle. October 10th, 80. From your total income, 10% to give with purpose, 10% to save with vision, 80% to live with intelligence. This proportion, far from being a rigid rule, acts as a mental structure that liberates. One who knows how to give and save will not fear lack because they don't spend impulsively, they invest with peace. A woman who attended my seminars applied this formula even in a difficult situation. Her monthly income barely covered the basics, but she decided to symbolically tithe, not with money, but with service. Once a week she looked after the children of a working mother, free of charge. She did it as a conscious act of circulation. A few months later, she was recommended for a better-paying job by that same woman. She told me, "My generosity triggered a chain. I didn't do it for a reward, but the result was multiplied blessing." The act of giving breaks the illusion of isolation. It reminds us that we are part of an invisible network of continuous exchange. When you give with intention, your energy aligns with the universal flow, and that alignment manifests as new opportunities, connections, solutions, unexpected income, not by magic, but by resonance. You must train your subconscious to associate giving with joy, not with loss. Every time you give from a place of scarcity, you reinforce fear. Every time you give from trust, you reinforce abundance. That's why I recommend saying before any act of generosity, "I circulate good and good returns to me multiplied. There is no limit to the flow that sustains me." Do it even with small gestures, a joyful tip, a shared meal, a generous recommendation. Don't measure just the amount, observe the intention. Because what activates the law is not the quantity, but the frequency from which you give. Now I offer you a practice. This week set aside something, money, time, talent, and give it as a symbol of faith in ongoing provision. Before doing it, take a deep breath and say, "This act validates my dialogue with wealth. I give because I have. I give because I trust. I give because I'm in the current of good." Then write down what happens in the following days. You'll see signs, you'll see connections. You'll notice how your conversation with abundance becomes more fluid. Remember, the subconscious does not need promises. It needs proof. And every time you give with intelligence and love, you are offering living proof that you believe in the law of good. Chapter 9, Higher Purpose, Money Serving the Vision. Wealth, when separated from purpose, becomes a burden. It can turn into a source of guilt, confusion, or stagnation. But when money is integrated into a higher vision, it acts as sacred fuel. It is no longer just currency or a resource. It becomes a vehicle of service, expansion, healing, and transformation. The human soul, created to grow, needs a clear direction so that its financial energy keeps flowing without internal contradiction. The real problem for many is not that they lack money, but that when they have it, they don't know what for. And when there is no why, self-sabotage arises, compulsive spending, emotional blockages, erratic investments, repeated conflicts. The subconscious, which detects any inconsistency between your desires and your deepest values, then acts as a protector and stops the flow, not as punishment, but as a signal. That is why it is vital to align your finances with your personal mission, not as an abstract ideal, but as a written, concrete, visualizable direction. The prophet Habakkuk expressed it precisely in his revelation. "Write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it." Habakkuk 2:2. A written vision is not a whim. It is a clear command to the subconscious. It is the declaration of intentions that transforms money into an ally, not an enemy. I have worked with successful entrepreneurs who outwardly had it all: wealth, recognition, stability. But inside, they felt inexplicable fatigue, a sense of emptiness or repetition. Upon inquiry, they discovered that their financial decisions were no longer connected to their original vision. They had forgotten the why, and without that why, every action loses spiritual strength. One case touched me deeply. A Canadian philanthropist who had accumulated a fortune in the tech sector told me how his life changed when he wrote this phrase on a simple sheet of paper: "My money is at the service of educating brilliant minds who cannot afford their studies." Since then, he has dedicated an increasing percentage of his income to student scholarships. But the most remarkable change was not external impact. It was his internal transformation. His health improved, his decisions became simpler, and his joy returned. Now every dollar has direction, he told me, and because of that, every dollar brings peace. When you give direction to your wealth, you activate within yourself a system of cooperation. There is no longer conflict between your desire to prosper and your need for meaning. There is no guilt in earning more because that more is linked to a noble cause. There is no fear of losing because what you possess is not an end, but a means. How do you formulate a higher purpose? Start by asking yourself, what greater good do I wish to support with my income? What cause resonates with my soul? What legacy do I want to leave? You don't need huge foundations or monumental works. A clear decision is enough. A mother who offered holistic therapies wrote, "My income supports the well-being of those who still cannot pay because one day someone helped me without charging." That vision gave her prices, her promotions, her scale, and it gave meaning to every workday. The subconscious needs images. That is why, once you have written your vision, translate it into symbols. You can design a poster, a drawing, or a vision board. Every time you see that symbol, your deep mind will remember, this is for this purpose. Money will stop being an object of desire or fear and will become a sacred tool. A therapist told me that after years of financial sabotage, she realized she was afraid of becoming insensitive if she earned more. She believed money would disconnect her from her vocation. Upon writing her vision, the more income I receive, the more people I can support freely, her pattern changed. She began attracting clients more easily. The subconscious no longer blocked her. There was coherence. That coherence is power. It is focused strength. It is a fire that does not burn but illuminates. A prosperous life is not one where there is excess, but one where everything serves. And to serve is not to lower yourself, but to elevate yourself. It is to place your tangible and intangible resources at the service of that which gives meaning to your existence. I now propose a directing exercise. Write your vision in a phrase no longer than 12 words that is clear, specific, and motivating. Examples: my income supports the education of women leaders in rural areas. My earnings feed children who have yet to be heard. My wealth amplifies music that lifts hearts. Then repeat this phrase each morning and each night. Visualize its impact. Feel how your money becomes useful, fertile, multiplying. You are not dreaming. You are programming. Make that vision your North Star. Do not sacrifice it for comfort. Do not hide it for fear. Do not postpone it for logic. It is your compass. When the subconscious detects a clear compass, it aligns its resources, perceptions, and decisions so that everything that comes to you contributes to that destiny. Money placed at the service of a greater cause becomes unstoppable because it no longer depends solely on your effort. It depends on the law of universal cooperation. When you collaborate with good, good collaborates with you, and that collaboration translates into opportunities, alliances, ideas, income, and peace. Chapter 10. Resolving Crisis Through the Inner Voice. A crisis is not a curse, but a message. It does not come to destroy you, but to guide you toward a higher level of understanding. Every financial blockage, every accumulated debt, every sudden loss carries an instruction yet unheard. Suffering arises when you resist listening, but when you decide to stop, ask, and receive, the principle of wealth responds precisely, not with magical formulas or pious evasions, but with a clear strategy that comes from the deepest part of your being. You are not alone in your difficulty. Your subconscious mind, which has recorded every thought, every emotion, every impulse since your birth, knows the way back to order. You don't need to guess it. You only need to invoke, listen, and obey. That is how orderly the process is. What seems like chaos has its own method. We call this the PPPA scheme: problem, question, plan, action. This is the way critical situations are resolved through the inner voice. Let's look at the first step, the problem. Don't deny it, don't exaggerate it, don't disguise it. Describe it precisely. Don't say, "I'm ruined." Say, "I have a $1,000 debt due in 2 months with no clear current income flow." The more specific you are, the more useful the response will be. The subconscious doesn't respond to generalities, but to clear directives. Second step, the question. Once you've defined your problem, formulate a concrete question. Don't say, "What do I do?" Say, "What is the exact first step to pay off this debt in order, peace, and dignity?" Or, "What resource have I not considered that could unlock this situation right now?" Don't ask from fear. Ask from the willingness to act. The inner tone matters as much as the words. Third step, the plan. After formulating your question, enter into silence. Apply the method already described. Rhythmic breathing, 3 in, 3 out, 3 in, serene invocation and receptive disposition. Whatever emerges, an idea, a name, an image, an instruction, will be the seed of the plan. Don't analyze it at the moment. Write it down. Let it mature. If the answer is confusing, repeat the question the next night. The subconscious refines its answer as it perceives your sincerity and openness. Fourth step, the action. Here is where the difference happens. Many receive guidance but do not act. They postpone, doubt, rationalize, but the mental law only rewards application. If you have received an impulse, call someone, adjust a plan, offer a service, release an asset. Do it with faith. Inner obedience is the trigger for the external result. A woman who listened to me on the radio wrote to me from North Carolina. Her case is exemplary. She had lost her job. Her husband was ill, and the mortgage was overdue. She told me she felt there was no way out. She prayed, but the fear did not subside. I proposed applying Mark 11:24. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. I instructed her to, every night before sleep, visualize the house standing, repeat the affirmation and ask, "What must I do now, Lord, to confirm my faith?" After 3 days, she woke with a clear phrase. Sell the old motorcycle and call your Aunt Elena. She did it. The motorcycle that no one had wanted was bought by a collector neighbor. The Aunt Elena, whom she hadn't seen for years, turned out to be a partner in a cooperative offering debt restructuring at a preferential rate. The woman not only kept her house, but found a job in that same cooperative as an administrative assistant. She closed her letter with these words, "I didn't understand how, but I knew I had to obey." That is what happens when you consult the inner voice amid crisis. You don't get explanations, you get steps. The intelligence dwelling in you doesn't argue with your situation, it reorders it from within, but it requires your full willingness, not to understand, but to trust, not to control, but to walk. Some crises are not resolved in a single act. They require a series of linked steps. But if each step arises from sincere consultation, there will be no ultimate loss. Every obstacle transforms into a step. Every apparent delay is preparation. Every internal answer, when obeyed, opens the next. A divorced man with a bankrupt company applied this method. His question was, "What must I do now with what remains?" The answer was clear. Organize everything in one file and present it to your old partner. He hesitated but obeyed. The partner helped him renegotiate his liabilities and surprisingly proposed a new partnership. Today he works in the same field, but with a renewed vision. His phrase was, "The inner voice not only pulled me out of the abyss, it reminded me who I am." That is the function of a well-resolved crisis, to remind you of your highest truth. It is not money that saves, but the awareness of connection to the source. When you know deeply that you can consult and receive precise direction, fear dissolves because fear arises from isolation. And that inner voice is your evidence that you are never alone. Remember the scheme, problem, question, plan, action. Write it down. Apply it step by step with reverence and discipline. Don't consult from anxiety. Do it from the certainty that there is a voice waiting to be heard. It doesn't judge you or punish you. It only awaits your availability. And once you begin to act in coherence with what you receive, you will discover that the crisis was not the end, but the door. A door that only opens from within. Chapter 11, Night Ritual for Financial Programming. The hours before sleep are a spiritual threshold. They belong neither to day nor to night. They are a transition zone between the conscious and the subconscious, between the visible and the invisible, between what has already happened and what is yet to manifest. It is on this threshold where your mental instructions gain unique power. What you think, affirm, imagine, or ask in the last minutes before sleep is deeply recorded in the silent laboratory of your subconscious, where it will be processed, nurtured, and returned as intuitions, circumstances, and external events. That is why I firmly teach, establish a night ritual for financial programming. This is not superstition nor a superficial routine. It is a scientific and spiritual practice based on understanding how your deep mind operates when the surface mind withdraws. The Book of Job anticipated this with prophetic clarity in dreams, in night visions. When a deep sleep falls on people when they slumber in their beds, then He, God, opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. Job 33:15-16. There is no mistake in this text. Higher instruction arrives while you sleep if you have planted the right question. This ritual lasts 20 minutes and consists of 3 phases: review, visualization, and consultation. Do it seriously. Eliminate all distractions. Turn off screens. Place your programming notebook on your bedside table. Take 3 deep breaths and prepare yourself in the field where the future is written. Phase 1, review of achievements. Take 5 minutes to quietly or in writing note the day's achievements related to your prosperity. You don't need large figures. A call made, an invoice sent, an idea noted, savings gained. Every action confirming your progress must be acknowledged. The subconscious needs to know you value progress, and you need to remind yourself you are on the right path. Example, today I confirmed my worth by setting a fair price. Today I gave thanks for every income received. Today I said no to a proposal that violated my peace. This review is not vanity, it is verification. It is an internal confirmation that your day aligned with your financial vision. That way the subconscious files it as a pattern. Phase 2, visualization of desired figures. Close your eyes, breathe gently. Imagine the scene representing your prosperity already realized. Don't just wish it. Observe, feel, hear. See your account with the exact balance you desire. Touch the bills. Open a letter with a check. Read a signed contract. Observe your table filled with abundant food, your agenda full of clients, your banking app with rising figures. Visualization is not childish imagination. It is a symbolic command to the subconscious master file. Modern neuroimaging studies have shown that the brain activates the same areas when visualizing as when experiencing. The subconscious does not distinguish between vividly felt imagination and perceived reality. That is why, I repeat, if you can see it with your eyes closed, you will see it with your eyes open. During this phase, mentally repeat affirmations such as, "My subconscious now prints the exact figure I desire and need. Everything is already given. I only allow what I see in my mind to manifest with order, joy, and speed." Phase 3, open consultation. In the final minutes, pose a question to the principle of wealth as you did in Chapter 6. But now, don't expect an immediate answer. Entrust it to the subconscious as if planting a seed in the ground toward you. You might say, "What must I do tomorrow to expand my income flow? What opportunity am I refusing to see? What financial habit must I incorporate?" Now write the question in your notebook. Place a sheet with that question, your result card, under your pillow. It is a symbol. It has no power by itself, but it informs the subconscious that you are willing to listen. Then fall asleep peacefully. Don't analyze, don't expect. Trust that the process is underway. Upon waking, don't immediately open your phone or begin mechanical activity. Stay silent for 3 minutes. Ask yourself, what did I dream? What image came? What idea arose? Write it down. Sometimes the answer is clear, sometimes progressive, but always guiding. A merchant wrote to me saying that after a month practicing this ritual, he dreamed of an old cash register. Upon waking, he remembered an old product he had stopped offering. He reactivated it, and it became his star product that quarter. He said, "The answer was there, waiting for me to ask clearly." Your mind is not asleep when you sleep. It is active but receptive. If you sow well at the close of the day, you will harvest direction upon its opening. This ritual is more than a technique. It is a pact with yourself. Every night you tell your mind, "Here is my day, here is my vision, here is my consultation, now you do your part." And the mind responds, "Do this for 21 nights, don't interrupt." You will see your emotions stabilize, your decisions sharpen, and your income begin to follow the pattern you visualized. Not by magic, but by law, because the subconscious, when instructed precisely and repeatedly, responds with accuracy and multiplication. Chapter 12. Daily Maintenance of the Conversation. Prosperity is not a state you reach once and then keep by inertia. It is a frequency you tune into daily. Just as the body requires regular nourishment to sustain its vitality, the subconscious mind needs constant maintenance to preserve its connection with the source of wealth. This maintenance is not complicated, but it does require attention. It is achieved through simple, repeated, everyday acts that turn every financial interaction into a micro-dialogue with the principle of abundance. Your conversation with wealth doesn't happen only in deep meditation or nightly rituals. It happens at the very moment you pay a bill, receive income, buy a product, or make a transfer. Each of these acts is an opportunity to reinforce your mental programming, because the subconscious listens more to what you do than what you say. If your words affirm abundance, but your actions express anxiety, fear, or complaint, you are sending contradictory signals, and the subconscious, which seeks coherence, stops the flow until you clear it. That's why I teach transforming every financial act into a living affirmation. If you pay a bill, quietly say, "I circulate good into the world, and it returns multiplied." This mantra acts as a vibrational command. It tells your subconscious that this money is not lost, but put into circulation, like water that waters and then returns as rain. By repeating it every time you spend, your mind stops associating spending with loss and begins to associate it with expansion. When you receive income, whether large or small, pause for a moment. Look at the money. Embrace it. Say, "This income confirms that the universe recognizes my value." It doesn't matter if the amount does not yet satisfy your desires. Every sign of income must be treated as a promise fulfilled. The subconscious records your attitude. If you despise what comes in, you narrow the channel. If you celebrate what arrives, you widen the way. Every time you buy something, do it with full presence. Don't spend automatically. Don't buy impulsively. Unconscious consumption interrupts the dialogue with wealth. Instead, when you choose with gratitude and clarity, you strengthen your frequency. When paying for a meal, say, "Thank you because I can nourish my body with love." When paying for a service, say, "This payment sustains the flow that also sustains me." It's not theatrics, it's training. A man who ran a technology company began rigorously applying this method. For years, he lived with anxiety checking his bank account, even when the numbers were positive. After starting to repeat, "I circulate good and it returns multiplied with every transaction," he noticed a subtle but decisive change. He stopped feeling distress. He began making decisions more fluidly. He identified opportunities he hadn't seen before. He told me, "What changed was my inner tone. I no longer talked to money from fear, but from trust." I invite you to keep a monthly record of financial synchronicities. This is not a conventional diary, but a tool for observation. At the end of each week, note events that confirm your conversation with wealth is active. It could be an unexpected payment, a surprising offer, a meaningful encounter, a lucrative idea. It doesn't matter if it seems minor. What matters is that you recognize it as part of the conversation. This record strengthens your faith and trains your mind to expect good. Examples of entries. I received a discount I didn't ask for, a sign of timely provision. I got an unexpected tax refund, confirmation of flow. An old client returned without me reaching out, evidence of prior sowing. This kind of writing is not only informative, it is performative. You are telling your subconscious, "I am attentive, I am receptive, I am in continuous dialogue with the principle of abundance." And as every deep mind responds to sustained attention, you will see these events begin to multiply. There is no neutral financial act. Every expense, income, transfer, or economic decision carries an emotional charge. If that charge is unconscious or negative, it weakens your prosperity field. If it is conscious and positive, it strengthens it. That's why I repeat, Don't let any transaction pass without marking it with a constructive affirmation. Make your day a continuous conversation. While you walk, while you work, while you decide, say inwardly, "All I give returns, all I receive blesses, all that flows confirms my connection to the source." This sequence is more than words. It is a constant redirection of your mental electromagnetic field, and that redirection modifies matter. Remember, money is not an object that comes or goes. It is a manifestation of your dialogue with the creative principle. That dialogue is not occasional. It is permanent. Your job is to keep it clear, alive, coherent. Every gesture is a prayer, every decision a declaration. And when your entire day becomes an intimate, grateful conversation with the energy of wealth, there is no interruption in the flow, because the entire universe recognizes and responds to one who lives in continuous listening. Epilogue. Money and I, eternal partners. At the end of this journey, you are not facing the end of a book, but the beginning of a perpetual alliance. You have discovered that money is neither enemy, nor savior, nor judge. It is a partner. It has no voice of its own but responds to yours. It doesn't think for itself but obeys the mold of your thoughts. It doesn't decide whom to serve. You decide whether to invoke it as an ally or reject it as a threat. From now on, every idea you plant with intention, every question you silently ask, every daily act you transform into a living affirmation will be part of this pact. You and wealth walking together, not by imposition but by mutual recognition. You have learned to perceive money as a divine idea in circulation, as benevolent energy expressed to the extent you allow it. You have internalized that the subconscious is a living bank, a dynamic treasure, the perfect receptor of mental images and congruent emotions. You have understood that the inner voice is not a mystical fantasy, but a functional, active, and precise directive that responds when consulted with reverence, clarity, and willingness. You have dismantled hostile beliefs, recycled images of lack, and planted symbols of prosperity that now dwell in your mind like seeds in fertile soil. You have practiced the art of asking and receiving, of thanking before seeing, of giving intelligently to confirm your faith in inexhaustible abundance. You have connected your highest purpose with your income, deactivating the old pattern of sabotage. You have resolved crises, not with force, but with inner obedience. You have established a nightly ritual of financial instruction, transforming your sleep into an incubator of strategies. You have made the day a temple of continuous conversation with the principle of wealth, where every expense blesses, every income confirms, and every decision circulates good. Now I invite you to consolidate this pact through a 90-day conversation with Wealth Challenge. This is not a superficial challenge, but a conscious commitment to total reprogramming for 90 consecutive days. Each night, consult your inner voice with a precise question. Record every financial synchronicity, however small it seems. Verbally thank every income, expense, and opportunity. Repeat the mantra, "I circulate good and it returns multiplied," at least 3 times a day. Reaffirm your financial vision in a written phrase. Read upon waking and before sleeping. Do this without skipping, without excuses, without, "I'll start tomorrow." This is not an experiment. It is an alliance renewal. Because now you know you are not talking to air. You are instructing the law. You are modeling how money responds to you. You are confirming that your mind is the channel and your word the rudder. At the end of these 90 days, record the changes, not just economic ones. Observe your peace, your clarity, your discernment, your relationship with opportunity, because the greatest fruit of this process is not accumulated wealth, but the awareness that abundance is your nature, not an exception. Finally, share what you have learned, not as dogma but as testimony. Not to impose, but to inspire. When someone close to you is in scarcity or fear, don't give them money. Give them method. Teach them to listen, to ask, to mentally sow, to receive. Thus, fulfill the eternal commandment. Give freely what you have received freely. Matthew 10:8. Because true wealth is not retaining, but circulating with wisdom. I leave you with a final prayer inspired by the blessing of St. Francis, adapted to the flow of conscious capital. Repeat it every night as a seal of this new alliance. Lord of all provision, make me an instrument of your circulation. Where there is fear of money, let me bring confidence. Where there is guilt for prospering, let me bring understanding. Where there is blockage, let me bring flow. Let me seek not so much to receive as to allow, not so much to accumulate as to serve, not so much to compete as to collaborate. Because in giving I receive, in trusting I am sustained, and in obeying the inner voice all is ordered. Make this prayer your inner hymn, not to ritualize, but to remember that money is not distant nor alien. It is a mirror, an echo, a partner, and like every true partner, it responds faithfully to whoever honors it consciously. May this pact accompany you always, and may your prosperity be a living testimony of a mind aligned with it.